Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy, a one stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper. These are the topics that we shall be discussing today. After the session, I will be sharing the PDF in my Telegram channel. The link to join my Telegram channel is provided in the video description. And every morning at 10 o'clock, we present before you the daily newspaper analysis. If this initiative of ours has been helping your civil services preparation, then do not forget to press the like button and let me know in the comment section if there are other initiatives that you would like us to initiate that will help your civil services preparation. Also, an important announcement: those attempting civil services examination in 2026 or beyond, and if you wish to prepare with us by subscribing to our UPSC course, then right now is the ideal time to subscribe to the Unacademy courses. Why? Because right now our subscription is available at a 60% discount. If not today, tomorrow, day after, at any point in time, should you wish to subscribe to our courses, please go to our website or the app, find out various subscriptions that we offer. You will see a different price being quoted on the website. And it will also ask you for a code. And if you will apply this code, then automatically the lowest subscription fee will be displayed on the screen. The code is IAS English. Sure. Now let's get started and let's look at topic number one: editorial, the tragedy of a commons. Now listen to me carefully. Constitution provides for a fundamental right under Article 19, Clause 1, Clause A of the Constitution, which talks about freedom of speech and expression. But this fundamental right, you would know, is not absolute because there are reasonable restrictions. One such reasonable restriction, because there are eight reasonable restrictions under Article 19, Clause 2 of the Constitution. For example, sovereignty and integrity, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign nations, public order, contempt of court, incitement to an offense, morality or decency. And the eighth reasonable restriction is defamation. And defamation, you must know, in India, it is both criminal as well as a civil offense. Despite the fact that we have borrowed these defamation laws from Britain, in Britain, defamation is only civil offense, but in India, it is both civil as well as criminal offense. In fact, there was a petition filed in the Supreme Court in 2016. Subramanyam Swamy, 2016, where the Supreme Court was urged that you should declare that defamation is only a civil offense in India and not a criminal offense. But Supreme Court did not agree. Put the ball in the court of the legislature. If the legislature tomorrow wants to amend the law and provide for defamation only as a civil offense, then court will not have a problem. But court did not direct that defamation in India would only be a civil offense. So right now it is both civil as well as criminal offense. Wikimedia Foundation, which runs this popular website called Wikipedia, and which is considered to be the online encyclopedia of information. Before the advent of ChatGPT, Wikipedia would be considered to be a go to destination for every content. Even the civil services aspirants would resort to Wikipedia to gather information. And I would always tell my students that Wikipedia is not always authentic because Wikipedia does not write its own content. It is an open source, collaborative, not for profit organization where the users would create pages, would edit pages, would provide information on these pages. There is a page related to a wire agency called ANI. This wire agency ANI was considered and mentioned as a propaganda tool of the government. where in Wikipedia pages. A long story short, Wikipedia, which started in 2001, it does not produce content of its own. What it relies upon is all the users, if they wish to contribute to Wikipedia pages, they have to register and they have to follow the guidelines of Wikipedia. Because Wikipedia is like an intermediary. It is a not for profit organization where users will create pages, will modify pages, will update the content on Wikipedia. A page was dedicated to ANI, which is a wire agency headed by Smita Prakash. This Wikipedia page mentioned that ANI is the propaganda tool of the government. ANI then dragged Wikimedia Foundation to the court, to the Delhi High Court, leveling allegations that this content on Wikipedia is defamatory. Wikipedia, in response to this defamation petition before the Delhi High Court, said, "We are only an intermediary," which means safe harbor protection will apply to us. What is the safe harbor protection? For example, you are posting content on X or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Assume that this content is against the sovereignty and integrity of India. It's against public order, it violates public order. But will the poster of this content be held criminally liable? Or will these social networking sites or platforms or intermediaries be held responsible? Long story short, if there is a content on Wikipedia related to ANI, will Wikipedia and the owner of Wikipedia, Wikimedia Foundation, be held liable, criminally liable for this content? Or will the user who has created such a content, who has made such a page, be liable for criminal prosecution? According to Safe Harbor Protection, Wikipedia ideally should not have been held accountable for the content on its website. Because it is only an intermediary, it will have a safe harbor protection. But Delhi High Court did something disturbing. And what it directed that this Wikipedia page should be taken down, should be modified so that the defamatory content is not posted on the Wikipedia. In fact, even more disturbing was Delhi High Court asking Wikipedia that you identify this user. You identify all these users who have managed to manipulate the content on Wikipedia pages related to ANI, despite the fact that you could not have revealed the identity of these users because otherwise these users would be subjected to retribution. ANI Foundation approached the Delhi High Court and said, this is editorialization. Ideally, what Wikipedia should have published is fact. It should not be publishing opinions or editorialization of the content of its pages. And Delhi High Court, according to this editorial, accepted the viewpoint of the ANI and directed the Wikipedia to take down these pages, which, according to this editorial, violates the fundamental rights and cripples the free speech in India. But not just that, listen to me carefully. Last year, when this case was being heard by the Delhi High Court, another page was created. Page was ANI versus Wikimedia Foundation. That means a separate page was created which contained details about this litigation, about this case which was being heard by the court. Delhi High Court ordered Wikipedia that you take down this page as well. Why? Because it amounts to contempt. Why contempt? Because it is as if you are interfering with the court proceeding. Even this order has been challenged before the Supreme Court, and 3 days ago, the Supreme Court said, why are you so touchy? It criticized Delhi High Court, saying you should not have given such an order. Why should you be so touchy about, as Joker would say in The Dark Knight? Why so serious? The Supreme Court is saying, why so touchy? There is an honest criticism about your judgment, or there is a page dedicated to the court proceedings. How on earth does it tend to interfere with the court proceedings? This matter is before the court, but this case is considered to be a landmark case because for the first time, the court has directed the Wikipedia that you take down the page which even talks about the court proceedings. And this editorial says that we need people to engage, we need people to streamline freedom of speech and expression, and we should not be throttling the free speech in this country. That's what you need to understand from this topic, because tomorrow, if there is a topic, if there is a question asked on defamation or free speech, it becomes necessary for you to court this judgment. And that is why I have asked one question in the model questions. The law of defamation seeks to protect individual reputation but must also balance the fundamental right to free speech. Critically examine the constitutional validity of criminal defamation in India in light of judicial pronouncements. Should it be decriminalized? Just like in Britain, where defamation is only a civil offense, should defamation also be a civil offense only in India? That's what you need to know. Let's look at another topic, another editorial from today's The Hindu, Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper, the middle, the missing middle. No legislation finds bipartisan support in parliament. This is where I slightly disagree with the Hindu editorial, if at all my opinion carries some weight. What is the Hindu editorial saying? That recently, when the Waqf bill was passed by the parliament, there was a polarization. That means, on one hand, there was a government which voted in favor of this bill, there was the opposition which voted against this bill. So, ideally, on this bill, there should have been a bipartisan support. Ideally, on pieces of legislation, there should be a unanimous support in the parliament, which should never be the objective either. Why? Because dissent is health in a democracy. You may not agree with a bill, you may criticize this bill, you may agree with this bill, and you will vote in favor of this bill. In fact, there has been near unanimous support for some bills in India. For example, when women's reservation bill was passed by the parliament in 2023, a constitutional amendment, 106th Constitutional Amendment Act, which provided for women's reservation in Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. Although this Women's Reservation Act has not come into effect, because for that we first need the census exercise, then we need the delimitation, and after that, women's reservation would enter into force. On this women's reservation, there was a unanimous support, bipartisan support, barring two MPs belonging to Mr. Owaisi's AIMIM. Only these two MPs of the Lok Sabha voted against this bill. Otherwise, every member of the parliament who was present and voting voted in favor of this bill. So, we have had instances where legislation in parliament finds bipartisan support. But ideally, it should not be even aimed at, because parliament becomes a debating society. Parliament becomes the temple of Indian democracy where debate, discussion, dissent becomes important. And in fact, I told you a couple of days ago in one of the Hindu newspaper analysis that for one reason this bill should be celebrated. Why? Because there was a thorough debate on this bill. This bill was referred to a joint parliamentary committee. So this bill elicited a lot of debate, discussion, and the debate and voting on this bill went past midnight as well. For that reason, this bill should be celebrated because it is like the reincarnation of the healthy practices of democracy inside Indian Parliament. But there are other things which were slightly worrying in the budget session of the Parliament. What was worrying? You would also know that when a president's rule is imposed in a state, within 2 months of the proclamation of the president's rule, this proclamation should be approved by both houses of the Parliament by simple majority. And when president's rule was imposed in Manipur, within 2 months, it had to be approved, ratified by both houses of the Indian Parliament by simple majority. Unfortunately, the voting on this continuance of president's rule, the time was beyond midnight, which ideally means there was less discussion on the Manipur's prevailing security situation. Ideally, one of the horrible stories coming from Northeast has been Manipur. There ideally should have been more and more debate on situation, security situation in Manipur, which didn't happen. So that's worrying. Second, leader of the opposition, the allegation is, was not given adequate time to speak in the parliament. But even more important is the business advisory committee. There is a business advisory committee in Lok Sabha. There is a business advisory committee in the Rajya Sabha as well. In Lok Sabha, it is chaired by the Speaker. In the Rajya Sabha, it is chaired by the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, who is the Vice President of India. In one of the meetings of this BAC in Rajya Sabha, the Vice President of India stormed out of that meeting because he alleged insult. What is this Business Advisory Committee becomes important for your examination. Let's look at some of the facts. Facts are, for example, there are 15 members in this business advisory committee in Lok Sabha, and all these members are nominated by the speaker. So there is no election, there is nomination. What is the term of this business advisory committee? Unless and until it is reconstituted, it continues. And ideally, what happens every June, this business advisory committee is constituted, and all the political parties they get due recognition in this business advisory committee, because the speaker, while nominating members to this business advisory committee, he considers the strength of all the political parties and accordingly assigns them a post, assigns them the membership of this business advisory committee. But what about those which do not have significant number of members in the Lok Sabha? What about those political parties? What about those political parties which have five or more members in Lok Sabha, but their members are not part of the business advisory committee? This fact is very important because what happens is that members from the opposition who do not find representation in this business advisory committee, or members of leaders of those political parties, where the number of members from that political party is five or more, but their members are not part of the BSE, speaker invites them as special invitees to these meetings. So, Business Advisory Committee in Lok Sabha, consisting up of 15 members, headed by the Speaker. Speaker nominates these 15 members from almost all the political parties. This is based on proportional representation system, which means all political parties get due recognition in this BAC. It is constituted every June and it remains in power, it remains in force unless and until it is reconstituted. Those political parties which do not find representation in the BAC, the speaker calls these members as special invitees, or the leaders of those political parties which have more than 5 MPs in Lok Sabha, but they are not part of the BAC. They are also invited. These leaders are also invited as special invitees. And what is the purpose of this BAC? For example, there is a bill, or there is a resolution, or there is a motion. How much time should be allocated on this bill? That is determined, that is decided by this business advisory committee, which means the function of this committee is to recommend the time that should be allotted for the discussion, and then something else. Any other matter can be recommended by this BAC after consultation with the leader of the house. And who is the leader of the house? It is the prime minister if he is an MP of Lok Sabha. Because right now, Mr. Modi is the leader of the House in Lok Sabha because he is also the member of the parliament in Lok Sabha. If not, then a senior minister recommended by the government is the leader of the House in Lok Sabha. For example, when Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister of India, but he was not the member of the Lok Sabha, he was the member of Rajya Sabha representing the state of Assam in Rajya Sabha. During his time, initially, Pranab Mukherjee was the leader of the House because the senior minister. After Pranab Mukherjee became the president of India, was elected as the president of India, Sushil Kumar Shinde, who was then the Union Home Minister, was the leader of the House in Lok Sabha. Long story short, other business, apart from recommending the amount of time that should be allotted for the discussion, apart from that, any other business, as the speaker, in consultation with the union, with the leader of the House, will direct That's the job of this business advisory committee. And the decisions taken by this business advisory committee, these are almost always unanimous. And this committee was for the first time constituted in 1952. These are facts. These facts are very important for your prelims examination. But if this editorial talks about the lack of bipartisan support on legislation, if this editorial talks about leader of opposition not allowed to speak adequately in the Lok Sabha, if this editorial talks about some other issues such as related to the BAC, the real question that we should be asking is how can we make parliament a productive institution? This can be very important for your mains examination because I have been receiving a lot of mails asking me that apart from newspaper analysis, could you also tell us what sort of questions can be asked in the examination from these topics? Which we normally do in every newspaper analysis because at least two mains based questions we are picking from the content and we are telling you. But right now, I'm going a step further and covering this portion, covering this editorial with the static portion of your syllabus. And from this topic, what UPSC can ask is how can we make Parliament a productive institution? And how can we make Parliament a productive institution? What are the steps that we need to take? First, let's fix a Parliament calendar. Because is there a fixed Parliament calendar? No. Constitution only says that the Parliament must meet as often as possible, but in such a manner that the time between the last day of the previous session and the first day of the next session should not be more than 6 months, which means Parliament must meet at least two times in a given year, twice in a given year. But for how many days? Because after all, taxpayers' money is spent on these parliamentary proceedings. Should there be a fixed parliamentary calendar? Look at the history. The number of sittings per year for Lok Sabha was 121 days from 1952 to 1970, which means out of 365 days, Parliament would sit for 121 days. This got reduced to 70 since 2000. And in fact, in some years, it has even been at 50. So we need to increase the number of sittings of the Parliament and ensure that Parliament must meet for a minimum of 100 days in a calendar year. That's number one. Number two, there has to be a deputy speaker because deputy speaker is a constitutional post. Constitution says that the house of the Lok Sabha, the house of the people shall, as soon as may be, elect two of its members, one as the speaker, the other as the deputy speaker. 17th Lok Sabha was the first Lok Sabha where we did not have a deputy speaker. Why? I don't know the reason. But there has to be a deputy speaker. And the convention in India is, although it is not mentioned in the constitution, but convention is that the speaker is from the ruling political party or the ruling coalition and the deputy speaker is from the opposition. There has to be a deputy speaker because it is an independent constitutional body. When speaker is not there to preside over Lok Sabha, there will be a deputy speaker to preside over Lok Sabha. And since deputy speaker is invariably from the opposition, traditionally from the opposition, by convention from the opposition, we need opposition voice in the Lok Sabha as well. Third, pre-legislative consultation policy. For example, this policy was enacted in 2014, where it was told that every bill, before it is passed by the parliament, there has to be a consultation, wider consultation on this bill. This consultation can be in the form of sending this bill to a select committee, sending this bill to a joint parliamentary committee, sending this bill to elicit public opinion. But we have seen less number of bills are being referred for public opinion, for eliciting public opinion. We should go back to this policy because in the 17th Lok Sabha, 9 out of 10 bills introduced in the parliament have been marked by zero or incomplete consultation. We need consultation because these laws are, after all, meant for the people. So consult the stakeholders before you are enacting these laws. And then each minister, while introducing a bill, should also lay the copy of the summary of these consultations. Exactly what are these consultations that we have had with various stakeholders? What did they recommend? present the summary of those consultations before the parliament as well while you are introducing this bill. It will make Indian parliament a productive institution, a vibrant, flourishing institution. Not just that, scrutiny of the bills. In the 14th Lok Sabha, 6 out of 10 bills were sent to various committees for scrutiny. 15th Lok Sabha, it was 7 out of 10. Very good. Then in the 16th Lok Sabha, it was 4 out of 10. In the 17th Lok Sabha, only 1 out of the 5 bills were sent for scrutiny. And whenever such questions are asked, when you mention various committee reports as well, it will lend weight and credence to your answer. For example, the National Commission to review the working of the Constitution, which was set up when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, it had recommended that all bills introduced in the Parliament should first be examined by the relevant committee, relevant departmentally related standing committee. And this committee then should also review implementation of these laws by the Parliament. That's how we can exercise control over the executive, because why did we implement or adopt parliamentary system? The reason was we wanted executive to be more and more accountable to the people. And how can executive be accountable to the people? Through legislature, through Lok Sabha, which is directly elected by the people. Then constitution amendment bills, for example, 99th Constitutional Amendment Act, which provided for NJAC to replace the collegium system of judicial appointments. This 99th Amendment was struck down by the Supreme Court in 2015 on the ground that it is violative of the basic structure of the Constitution, because it violates independence of judiciary, because it violates the primacy of Chief Justice of India in judicial appointments. It is an embarrassment on the Parliament's part, because the court striking down a constitutional amendment act, it's like an affront to the Parliament and to the will of the people, because Parliament represents the will of the people. That is why another suggestion to make Parliament an effective institution is that there should be a joint constitutional committee from both houses of the Indian Parliament. They should review the validity of these constitutional amendment bills before they are even introduced in the Parliament, so that we are not, Parliament as an institution is not embarrassed further before the courts. Sixth, in the Rajya Sabha, there is the agenda of the House. For example, the agenda is that today we will discuss the Waqf bill. We will vote on the Waqf bill. We will discuss the president's rule in Manipur and we will vote on it. This is the agenda. But can this agenda be suspended so that we will not follow this agenda, but we will discuss a matter of urgent national importance? For that, opposition would introduce a notice, would give a notice to the chairman under Rule 267 that forget about the agenda, we should be discussing a matter of urgent national importance. And the last time such a notice was admitted was when Hamid Ansari was the Vice President of India and the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. And the Rajya Sabha, under Rule 267, discussed demonetization. After that, so many Rule 267 notices have been sent to the chairman, but none of these notices have been admitted. Notices were sent that let's discuss price rise, inflation, let's discuss farm laws, let's discuss China and the Chinese aggression along the line of the actual control. Let's discuss various things, but none of these notices were admitted. How can we make Parliament a productive institution? Is at least one notice in session should be admitted so that opposition should have its say. The best practice that we can follow is in Parliament, government should have its way and opposition should have its say. Let opposition speak and let government have its own way, because after all, you have to run the government. But allow opposition to speak through admission of Rule 267 notices. Also, there have been a criticism, particularly of the Prime Minister, that Prime Minister seldom speaks in the Parliament. You can speak through Man Ki Baat, but you don't speak in the parliament. That's the allegation. Although Prime Minister does speak, but opposition wants Prime Ministers to speak more often than currently. And for that, since we have borrowed a lot of provisions from UK, in UK there is Prime Minister's question time, where every Wednesday Prime Minister of UK will have to come to the Parliament and speak and answer questions of the legislators. It is time to implement this in India as well, so that every Wednesday or every Friday or suggest any day where the Prime Minister will come to the Parliament and will only reply to the opposition MPs when they are posing questions. That is how Parliament can become a robust, functioning institution. And the larger beneficiary of this would be the democracy of India. That is why this question. An effective and productive parliament is the cornerstone of a vibrant democracy. In light of the statement, discuss the challenges that hinder the productivity of Indian Parliament, suggest institutional and procedural reforms, enhance its effectiveness. And all these procedures we have discussed in the previous slides. Any questions as of now? Please let me know. Okay, great. Health and sanitation as the pillars of a healthy India. Today, April 7, is being celebrated world over as the World Health Day. If you look at your GS paper 2 syllabus, it talks about issues relating to development and management of social sector or services relating to health, education, and human resources. This topic is very important for your mains examination. Health and sanitation, they go hand in hand. Or should we say they are two sides of the same coin? And whenever history of India would be written, for that two very important programs of the current government would be discussed, highlighted, and celebrated. One is the Swachh Bharat Mission, Grameen, and the other is Jal Jeevan Mission. What was the objective of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort in 2014? The idea was to make India clean. And for that, an important emphasis was paid on making India open defecation free, so that people are not answering the nature's call out in the open in the fields, but we should be constructing toilets within the home of the people so that we are able to preserve, maintain public health. Another important mission was Jal Jeevan Mission, and the objective was to provide tap water to the households in India. Tap water, so that women particularly do not have to go out and walk a lot of distance and then fetch drinking water, because it will affect their productive hours as well. These two landmark programs of the government are not only schemes, they talk about behavioral changes. And that is why, to launch these schemes, a lot of awareness was also required, because you had to change the behavior of the people, because the people's behavior was, how can we construct toilets within our homes, because within our homes there is a temple as well, and in the same place we should not have a toilet as well. And then we will answer nature's call out in the open, which would have affected the woman's security as well, which would have led to a lot of diseases as well. So the emphasis required Jan Andolan, required a lot of public awareness as well as changing the behavior of the people. That is why you will see celebrities promoting and popularizing Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And what we have done because of this, in the year 2019, we declared India to be open defecation free. That was a landmark achievement. considering that it involved changing the behavior of the people. Similarly, there is a Sustainable Development Goal 6.2, which talks about that we should focus on providing adequate, equitable sanitation and hygiene for all, that too by 2030. So, to implement the Sustainable Development Goal and our own mission that we want to make India open defecation free, and we did that 11 years ahead of the schedule because we had to achieve it by 2030. We achieved it in 2019. Both these schemes, both these initiatives have been instrumental in reshaping the conversations related to health and sanitation in India. And what has been the impact? These data points are very, very important when you write answers to these questions. According to World Health Organization, because of our initiatives such as Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin in rural areas, 3 lakh deaths due to diarrhea have been averted. Between 2014 to 2019, in just 5 years of the launch. According to UNICEF, 93% of the women they now feel safe using the home toilet. 50,000 per year has been saved per family in health costs. Because if there is a toilet inside the home, you are not going out in the open fields to answer the nature's call, and then you will not wash your hands as well. Hygiene would tell you that you should wash your hands at least for 30 seconds with soap. Otherwise, bacterial infections, other infections would result. And then you have to go to a hospital or a dispensary. You have to consume antibiotics, for example, other medicines, for example. So, this expenditure would be saved, and 50,000 per year per family has been saved because of these initiatives, according to UNICEF. According to Bill Gates Foundation, 58% higher child wasting is found in non open defecation free areas. So there is an open defecation free area, there is a non open defecation free area. We talk about challenges like malnutrition, and it has various components. For example, wasting, which means less weight according to your height, stunting, less height according to your age, similarly, underweight, less weight according to your age. All these are the issues that we are grappling with. But when we look at those areas where open defecation has not been implemented, in a sense, has not been achieved, in those areas, we see 58% higher child wasting. So look at the impact of sanitation and health, because these are not two separate initiatives or two separate areas. These are two sides of the same coin. You take care of sanitation, you are taking care of the health and the nutrition of the people. Similarly, according to Nature magazine, 60 to 70,000 child deaths have been prevented annually because of this initiative, such as Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. And then open defecation would also mean that you're contaminating the groundwater as well, which makes the groundwater unfit for human consumption. But those villages which have been declared open defecation free, we have reported almost 12 times less groundwater contamination. And on top of that, to this open defecation free, to Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, what are you trying to achieve as well? You are giving fillip to this Gobardhan scheme, galvanizing organic bioagricultural resources. Because when you implement Swachh Bharat Gramin, and then you also ensure that toilets are constructed at home, because of that, you also ensure that there is liquid waste management and proper solid waste management as well. This output in the form of waste can be converted into wealth. promoting biogas, promoting this organic waste management. So it is not only helping in ensuring health and viability of the people, it is also giving fillip to the Govardhan scheme. And this creates a cyclical economic opportunity to the people in rural areas. And significant achievement was also because of Jan Jal Jeevan Mission, which was launched in 2019. What was the single most important objective? That by 2024, we should provide tap water to the people at their homes. And as of now, what we have done in rural areas, 80% has been achieved. 80% conversion, or what we call coverage, has been achieved. Has had an impact on children's health as well. According to Michael Kramer's research, the Nobel laureate, universal tap water can reduce under 5 mortality by 1.36 lakh annually. According to WHO, Jal Jeevan Mission can avert 4 lakh deaths of children through diarrhea. And it has led to women's empowerment as well. Because whether you agree or not, it's the women who face the brunt, who bore the brunt of fetching this drinking water, fetching water from far off distances, from wells. And that would waste her time as well. And because now running tap water is provided at the households itself, 5.5 crore hours are saved daily by women. Because previously this amount of time was spent on fetching water. According to State Bank of India's survey, what this has led to increased women participation in agriculture and livelihoods. What is not mentioned in this article, but something that you can also relate to, is the Ujwala scheme of the government. Because the women, again, sounds patriarchal, but we assume that it is the women who have to take care of the household chores, who have to cook food. And this woman would cook food on a chula, will use firewood to prepare food. Ultimately, the poisonous gases, smoke which will emanate, it will affect the lungs and the respiratory system of women. Asthma, bronchitis, and various other ailments would result. Ujwala scheme was launched by the government providing free LPG gas connections. All these have had an impact on the health of women as well as the children, because children would be in the surroundings of the women while they are preparing food, while they are making food. But on top of that, women have become agents of change. Under these initiatives, for example, now women have been trained that you can test the water quality. 2.48 million women have been trained to test water quality. Not just that, women led self help groups. Self help group, it is a very important topic in your GS paper too, as well, where women they come together. It's an all women group. They come together. For example, this is a self help group of 20 women. All these women, they will contribute some amount of money, let's say monthly. And then whoever is the most needy will be provided that money, a part of this money, by this self help group. For example, 20 women, they have pooled money. One woman, she may need this money. Why? For buying, let's say, sieving machines, because she wants to take care of the tailoring business, because she wants to become financial independent. So don't you think it leads to financial empowerment of women? Because as a woman, I could not have gone to the bank for credit because they will ask for collateral. And these banks are not meant for me because I don't have any collateral. I am poor. Top of that, look at the impact that it has had. These women, they not only lend money, now They will put terms and conditions how you will repay this money as well. So through this, you are imparting financial literacy to women as well. And now women, because of the self-help group movement, they have become like bankers, loan providers. Financial literacy has been provided, and they are now in a much better position to manage the self-help group. And now banks are also lending money to SHGs. And it is argued, as per various data, that whenever a loan is provided, credit facility is provided to women, they are more likely to repay that loan. If you read today's Indian Express newspaper, it talks about that there is a massive default on credit cards, according to Indian Express reports today. And it has been highest, I think, 62,000 crore worth of NPA from these credit card dues. But on the other side, if you lend it to women, they are more likely to repay that amount. Because of these women-led self-help groups, now these SHGs, they are managing sanitation infrastructure in rural areas. They are managing what? Sanitary napkin production units. Because there is also a psychological issue here. Psychological issue here in the sense, when a woman goes to a shop asking for a sanitary napkin, she whispers. And ironically, this one of the most high selling brand is also called Whisper. Don't say this word. Just in whispers, you can ask whatever you need. And the shopkeeper, when he's giving the sanitary pad, wraps it up in black polythene, despite the fact that it is banned, or in a newspaper clipping paper, because there is a taboo associated with sanitary napkins. But be that as it may, sanitary napkin production units or recycling and waste centers, this is how women's empowerment has been carried out through these missions such as Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, such as Jal Jeevan Mission. But at the same time, there are some challenges. Challenges in the sense, ensuring sustainability of ODF status, which means once this village has been declared as open defecation free, then we need to focus on ODF plus, which means you have to now sustain it as well. How do you sustain it? If you have liquid waste management, solid waste management, and through information, education, and communication messages, you are displaying this information to the public as well, that this village continues or this area continues to be open defecation free. And visibly, this area should appear to be clean of dirt and waste, at least in open. So now the challenge is not only open defecation free, but sustainability of it. How do we sustain it over a period of time? Addressing water quality issues. For example, in our groundwater, there has been high contamination of arsenic and fluoride. And that is why in 2013, this question was asked in your prelims examination. Can you tell me in the comment section what is the right answer to this question? Which of the following can be found as pollutants in the drinking water in some parts of India? Is it arsenic? Is it fluoride? It's uranium as well. So C135 is the right answer. Okay, uranium is also found. Maintain expanding this coverage. Now, we should not only focus on rural areas, we should also look at the slums in the urban areas. We should focus on the remote tribal areas as well. But it all needs Jan Andolan. Without people's active participation, we cannot ensure the success and the continued success of these programs and schemes. For that, community participation is necessary. And community should not only participate, it should also monitor the success of these programs. That is what you have to keep in mind from this newspaper article. Lots and lots of articles related to health covered in today's newspaper because, as I told you, April 7 celebrated as the World Health Day. Let's look at another topic: bridging gaps and building resilience. Rural areas, urban areas. 70% of our population resides in the rural areas, but only 35% to 40% of our health infrastructure is located in the rural areas. Then what should we do? The government, through policy initiatives, because there are some things which you can't leave to the private sector. That's my personal belief. Some things such as health, some things such as education, some things such as sanitation. These are the things that you can't leave to the private sector, ideally, or should not leave entirely to the private sector. There has to be active involvement of state, active involvement of government in health, in education, in sanitation. So if 70% of our population is residing in the rural areas, but only 35 to 40% of our health infrastructure is located in rural areas, then what do we need? We need to expand our health infrastructure in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That's given. But at the same time, we need to encourage that these medical professionals, once they qualify NEET exam, they should not disappear outside of the country and now serve in Dubai or Europe or in New Zealand and Australia. They should work in India and they should be ideally encouraged to work at least for some years in the rural areas. And this is where technology can also play a very important role. Technology in the form of telemedicine, where we can use technology so that a doctor sitting in an urban area, in a city, can also treat a patient who is in a far off village using internet connectivity. And we have also seen instances where surgery has also been performed remotely through robotics using telemedicine. But there are some challenges which we will discuss here. As a nation, we face two challenges, two big health challenges. One is persistent infectious diseases, infections, dengue, malaria, cholera, so on and so forth. And then non communicable diseases as well. And these are the diseases which account for 65% of all deaths in India. Non communicable diseases, for example, related to our sedentary lifestyle. All the time we are working in front of our desktop or computer or laptop, and we don't even get up, eat at the same table. It is only with the advent of smart watches that now you get a notification. Please stand up. Sedentary lifestyle, it leads to diabetes, heart diseases, other ailments. My firm belief is that there should be a health tax imposed on soft drinks. These are not soft drinks, the euphemism soft drink. It is like a poison. Thumbs up, taste the thunder. Ghar ke aage jeet hai. Mountain Dew. Ideally, there should be no advertisement of these drinks, because what ideally they should communicate in the advertisements then should be the amount of sugar content that is available in these drinks. So ideally it should come under misleading advertisement. But our laws, regulatory laws related to these soft drinks are so poor that they get away with these advertisements. At the same time, health tech should be there on McDonald's, on Burger Kings, on Pizza Huts and Domino's. Because through this, what you are promoting a lifestyle and a diet style which will further make our kids obese. Not just kids, but elderly as well, adults as well. And through this, our demographic dividend, which we pride ourselves in, can turn into a demographic nightmare. 2024 International Diabetes Federation has reported that there are 101 million Indians with diabetes. Now, there are miracle drugs as well, for example, which have been cleared for use in India. We will discuss them later as and when such news appear in the market, appear in the newspapers. Some miracle drugs which will overnight reduce your weight because of type 2 diabetes. Whether that is really a miracle drug or what, we will have to wait and watch. Air pollution, according to the Lancet, it accounts for 1.6 million deaths in 2019. Ideally, these are the conversations that we should have had in Parliament. Ideally, air pollution should become a voting issue. But you know what are the voting issues and priorities? We don't cast our vote, we vote our caste. So these should be the ideal conversations that we should have had in Parliament, in state legislatures, in public forum. According to National Family Health Survey, 35% of the children under 5 are stunted. That means less height according to their age. 57% of the women in the age group of 15 to 49 are anemic, low amount of hemoglobin in the blood. And these are not ordinary issues, these are issues related to poverty. So, poverty plays a very important role because you are not given nutritious food or a balanced diet, which is the requirement. Your diet has to be balanced. It should not ideally be a high calorie value diet, should be fed to the people. It should be balanced as well. So, all these are issues related to poverty, related to lack of education, related to poor sanitation, and gender inequality as well. Gender inequality in the sense, in our homes, if there is a female child, there is a male child. Nutritious food is fed to the male child, and the girl child is neglected. 2025-26, in the union budget, close to 1 lakh crore, which is slightly less than 2% of our total budget, it was allocated to the health ministry. Despite that, out of pocket expenditure continues to increase. And according to various estimates, 55 million people are thrust into poverty because of this out of pocket expenditure. Despite the fact that we have Ayushman Bharat, a health scheme for poor, at least for 500 million population. Even then, not everything is covered in the health insurance. Out of pocket expenditure related to health increases and pushes people into debt and poverty. So, what we need to do, as is the old saying, prevention is better than cure. We need to focus on preventive healthcare. How? Regular screenings. You might have heard that if somebody is detected with stage 4 cancer, there are less chances of survival. In few weeks, few months, the person is dead. But if the cancer is detected at an early stage, through a lot of initiatives, your longevity will increase. You may become a healthy person again. At least you will survive for another 10, 15, 20 years. Most of the women who are suffering from cancer suffer from breast cancer or ovarian cancer. And these are best treated if they are detected at an early stage. So, shouldn't there be regular screenings, school based health programs? Unfortunately, eggs in midday meal scheme have been stopped by various state governments. Egg is a nutritious diet. But even if you're a vegetarian, then leave that aside. Other alternatives should be provided. But those who are eating eggs, they should be encouraged to eat it, and you should not stop it and impose these dietary restrictions on the students, on the kids. Public health campaign is essential. So we need to focus on preventive healthcare. That will go a long way in ensuring that we live a healthy life and this objective of healthy India is realized. We have had programs such as Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission and e-Sanjeevani. What do they primarily do? Telemedicine. Remotely, you can be connected to a doctor. Remotely, your scans can also be viewed by the doctor. So you don't have to be in physical conformity with a doctor. It has collectively facilitated 10 crore tele consultations. Now lies the challenge. The challenge is there is a digital divide as well. We say India and we say Bharat. India, commentators say, signify urban, educated, elite people in the cities who have access to better healthcare, better education, better lifestyle, standard of living. And people in Bharat, people in rural areas, there is a digital divide as well. Internet connectivity, the penetration of internet is higher in urban areas. There are only 37% of the rural households who have internet connectivity. Numerous patients in rural areas, including doctors, healthcare professionals, they lack the technical know how to utilize the services and the benefits of teleconsultation, telemedicine, to use these teleservices, telehealth services. If this digital divide is not addressed, technology could exacerbate healthcare disparities, further fuel these disparities. So we need to focus on teledensity as well, internet connectivity in a rural area. But one aspect of health which is often overlooked or even today considered as a taboo is our mental health. National Institute for Mental Health and Neurosciences, based in Bengaluru, a 2023 study said that 14% of the Indians suffer from some form of mental disorder. That means we need to focus on mental health. I think this number is underreported. India must perceive health not merely as a social obligation, but as a strategic investment. Because if we want to fulfill our vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047 or health for all, then we have to take care of our mental health. And we have to treat investment in health not as a social obligation, but as a strategic investment. Because healthy India, healthy Indians would become a healthy part of the workforce, would become a healthy members of the society, and it will deepen our democracy, deepen our infrastructure, and ensure that we grow consistently as a nation. That's what you need to understand from this topic. Clear? Any questions as of now? No? Then press the like button and then I will start with another topic. Can the US president serve a third term? Originally, the US Constitution did not have a limit, but it was an unwritten convention that for more than two terms, the same person should not become the president of the United States again. That is why in 1796, when United States first president George Washington, he voluntarily declined a third term. He was the president for two terms, then he declined the third term because of this unwritten rule that the same person should not be elected as the president of the United States for a third term, for more than two terms. Then something happened when Franklin D. Roosevelt became the president of the United States of America for four consecutive terms. And that is how, in 1951, the Constitution of the United States was amended to say that now the same person cannot be elected Remember this term, elected. The same person cannot be elected as the President of the United States of America for more than 2 terms. But Donald Trump, he says that I'm not joking when I say that I wish to run for the third term as well. I want to be the president for the third term as well. How is that constitutionally possible? That is something that we will have to discuss here because, again, in GS paper 2, there is a topic called comparison of world constitutions. This is where it may be relevant for your exam. What are the ways to which Donald Trump can become the president of the United States of America again in 2029? One is to have Vice President, Mr. J.D. Vance. If the president dies or the president resigns, who will be the president of the United States of America? The vice president. For how many years? For the remainder of the term. For example, in India, if there is a vacancy in the office of the president, vice president will act as the president of India. For how long? Not forever, but till the time the successor is elected, till the time new president is elected, which should be done ideally within 6 months. So we can say that the vice president of India will act as the president of India for a maximum period of 6 months because within 6 months there has to be an election to elect the new president. But in United States, vice president will act as the president of India. Vice president will act as the president of the United States for the remainder of this tenure. Clear? Listen to me carefully. That is why I said focus on this term elected. Same person cannot be elected as the president of the United States for more than 2 terms. And each term is for 4 years, which means total 8 years. Next time when the election would take place, Donald Trump has already served 2 terms. That means he has been the president of the United States for 8 years. What he will do is president. Now, Mr. J.D. Vance will contest to the post of the president of the United States. He will be elected as the president of the United States and he will nominate Donald J. Trump as the vice president. And once J.D. Vance becomes the president of the United States, then he will resign, which means now Donald Trump will become the president, not through election, but through succession. Now, J.D. Vance is gone as the president. Donald Trump will act as the president of the United States for the remainder of the term. Because he is not elected, he assumes the post of the United States president because there is a vacancy in the office of the president. But this may not be workable. Why? Because there has been an amendment to the US Constitution. I think it is the 12th Amendment to US Constitution. You don't have to remember the amendment numbers, but just understand the concept. According to 12th Amendment, if you are not qualified, constitutionally qualified to become the president of the United States, you cannot become the vice president either. Which means Donald Trump, if you are not constitutionally permissible to become the president of the United States because you have completed your 2 terms, 8 years, then by this logic, you are not eligible to be appointed as the vice president either, to be elected as the vice president either. So this route is not possible. Then what is the other route? Other route is Donald J. Trump is elected as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Because US Congress, which is US Parliament, it is a bicameral legislature. It consists of House of Representatives, it consists of Senate. And House of Representative will have a speaker, just like the Senate has a chairman. The speaker is elected by the House of Representatives. And this speaker need not be a member either. So Donald Trump, despite not being a member of the House of Representatives, for example, can be elected as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And then what will happen? There is president, there is vice president. And if president resigns, someone who is the president may be from Republican Party. Vice president also resigns, somebody who's from the Republican Party, the grand old party to which Donald Trump belongs. Now, when there is no president, when there is no vice president, who will be the president of the United States? The Speaker of the House of Representatives. And who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives? Donald Trump. Which means you have not been elected as the President of the United States. But through this line of succession, you are assuming the post of the President of the United States of America. This is a legal loophole that Donald Trump is talking about, through which he can become the president again for the third term. Or the other alternative is amend the Constitution. And how do you amend the Constitution? There are two ways. One is that the Congress will pass a constitutional amendment bill through which by two-third majority. And then this constitutional amendment bill has to be ratified by three-fourths of the states as well. Three-fourths of the states as well. This is one way. The second way is through constitutional convention, which means two-thirds of the states will propose a legislation, propose an amendment, and then this amendment has to be ratified by three-fourths of the states. Till date, this constitutional convention has never been used. The Constitution of United States, which has been amended 27 times, for 26 times, method one was used. Method one was that two-thirds of the members of House of Representatives and Senate, they will pass a constitutional amendment. Then it has to be ratified by three-fourths of the states. This has been used all the times. The second method, constitutional convention, where two-thirds of the state legislatures will propose an amendment. And then it has to be ratified by three-fourths of the states. This has never been invoked. Maybe it will be invoked now in case of Donald Trump. And it is not related to Donald Trump. Look at the other countries. For example, Turkey's Mr. Erdogan. He has been trying to control his grip on country's politics through one way or the other, manipulating the constitution. Or the most beautiful example is that of Mr. Putin as the president of Russia. For example, in Russia also, there is a two-term limit that you could not be elected as the president of Russia for two terms. And the term was, listen to me carefully. Term was 4 years. That means 2004 till 2008, then 2008 till 2012. When for these two terms, Mr. Putin was the president of Russia, that means now he is not eligible to contest. Then what he did, Dmitry Medvedev, he became the president of Russia and Putin became the prime minister. Even now, who is exercising control on Russia's politics? Now, Prime Minister Putin. So it doesn't matter what is your designation. If you are Putin, you are the head, whether president or prime minister. But when Dmitry Medvedev, he was the president of Russia, constitution was amended to say that now the term of the president is 6 years. When the term of the president is 6 years, that means till 2018. And in 2018, Putin again became the president because you can't be president for two successive terms, more than two successive terms. So now the succession has been broken. Putin is now the president from 2018 to 2024, then to 2030. And in 2020, constitution was amended again to say that Putin's two-term limit should come into force later, which means till 2036, nobody will touch Mr. Putin as the president of Russia. Don't remember, you don't have to remember these nitty-gritties. Just keep in mind that Mr. Putin, he manipulated the constitution in such a manner that his grip over the politics of Russia continues unabated. So we have seen this tendency in the world leaders, where through one way or the other you want to control the grip, you want to extend your grip over the politics, over the power for an indefinite period of time. Something that Donald Trump is now trying to do, something Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey did, something that Russian Vladimir Putin did. Clear? But in India, we don't see such a limit because there is no limit to the number of times the president can get elected or re-elected, or the prime minister can get elected or re-elected. Let's look at the last article from the House residence of the judge of a Delhi High Court. Half burnt currency notes were unearthed, and this led to a lot of furor. Now, that judge has been transferred to the Allahabad High Court because that was his parent High Court. Although no judicial work has been assigned to this judge, but it calls for a larger transparency. And transparency was implemented thanks to April 1st resolution passed by the Chief Justice of India and 33 other judges who said that we will now disclose our assets. Where? And we will upload it on the Supreme Court website itself. Because as of now, the judge of the Supreme Court would have declared his or her assets to the Chief Justice of India. The judge of a high court would have declared his assets to the Chief Justice of that concerned high court. But can these assets be made known to the public? Can we get the data about these assets in public forum? No, because in 2010, Supreme Court and Secretary General Supreme Court versus Subhash Chandra Agarwal, it said that since this is personal detail about a judge, you cannot disclose it to others, because right now we disclose it to the Chief Justice. You cannot disclose it to the larger public unless and until there is a compelling public interest. In 2019, again, Supreme Court five-judge constitution bench said these asset details have to remain confidential. Otherwise, it affects the independence of judiciary. It will affect the way they function unless and until public interest warrants their disclosure. But now the Supreme Court has said we will put it out on the Supreme Court website. And almost all the Supreme Court judges, barring few, they have they have shared their assets to the Chief Justice of India and now will be made available on the Supreme Court website. What about High Court judges? There are only six High Court judges. There are only six High Courts in India. How many High Courts do we have? We have 25. Out of 25 High Courts, there are only six High Courts where judges have declared their assets to their respective Chief Justices. And of the total High Court judges that we have, only 12% of the judges have declared their assets to the respective Chief Justices of their High Courts. This data point becomes very important. So, whenever there is a question related to transparency, whenever there is a question related to accountability of the judges, for that you have to incorporate data from the current affairs. And one such data is only 12% of the High Court judges have declared their assets to the respective Chief Justices. And out of 25, only six High Courts have had judges declaring their assets. Out of these six High Courts, in Chhattisgarh, only one judge has declared asset. But when it comes to Kerala High Court, we see a silver lining. There are 44 judges of the High Court in Kerala, 41 have declared their assets to the chief. So even in these high courts, we see that there is a variation. In Kerala, almost everybody has declared asset. In Chhattisgarh, almost nobody has declared asset. That is what you have to keep in mind. And this brings us to the closure to the end of this Hindu newspaper analysis session. If you have got benefited from this lecture, do let me know in the comment section. And I will see you again for the next 2 days continuously, hopefully, with another edition of the Hindu newspaper analysis. After this session, I will share the PDF in my Telegram channel. Please join me on my Telegram. Till then, have a great time. All the best.